tell you now. What's up, Facebook?
What's up?
So we're back with this episode, and we got one person bigger. Weird. Okay, so we're about to start the shooting of the live segments for episode 24.
Yeah, we're a little bit late this time because technical logistics here.
We added equipment, we added microphones, we added people. So it is kind of what it is. Sorry about that. Next week we should be back to the normal setup with the 12 o'clock start time on Saturday, I believe. So we'll plan on doing that. So we're gonna, instead of doing it how we did the last time we played sound bites, which was I had them all queued up in the way that the podcast sounds. We're gonna play the sound bites for you real quick that we that lead us into our stories. And then we'll get the show started here in just a second. So behind you on that computer, if you go to the folder that says TDAP this week,
Okay.
you can queue up bite 1. And obviously we're going to start with North Korea.
Let's not make any more threats to the United States.
That's not.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so obviously we know what Donald Trump said. I believe it was Tuesday. And now you can pretend that our cool electronica music is playing. You can pretend you hear Mitch and I come in on a pre-recorded soundbite explaining what the show is about. Word. And now we'll go ahead and play soundbite number 2 real quick.
Tonight, a new threat from North Korea coming in, saying they will be ready to attack the U.S. territory of Guam by mid-August. This comes as President Trump's warning shot fired directly at Pyongyang tonight is sending shockwaves around the world. But ABC News has learned that threat caught some in the president's own inner circle by surprise. The president, in that statement, using language not vetted or pre-approved by his national security team. Sources close to the president say behind closed doors with top aides, including new Chief of Staff General John Kelly, President Trump had discussed taking a tougher tone on Pyongyang. But even members of his own national security team had no idea the president would go so far. Within a few hours, North Korea responding with its own warning, saying it is seriously considering a plan to target Guam with missiles. The U.S. territory, home to crucial military bases and 160,000 Americans, is just 2,000 miles away. Then today, Rex Tillerson sending a message of his own, landing in Guam, offering very different words.
I think Americans should sleep well at night.
The Secretary of State striking a much softer tone.
What the president's doing is sending a strong message to North Korea in language that Kim Jong-un would understand. Because he doesn't seem to understand.
They don't think he can read minds.
Then the president himself weighed in, tweeting, "Our nuclear arsenal is now far stronger and more powerful than ever before. Hopefully we will never have to use this power." But his initial words have sparked international reaction.
All
right, cool. So,
we're going to start this thing now.
Who is this guy? This guy's Frank. And if you stay tuned for 30 more seconds when I start this recording here, you're going to get a full explanation, Matt.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not going to talk to you this whole episode. I'll talk to you some of this episode. We're not going to talk to you this whole episode. But thanks for complimenting my beard again. I'm still
It's
glowing.
masterful.
It is. I'm still glowing over that one. So I don't know why I'm talking to the microphone. We're not recording yet. But we're about to in 3, 2, 1. Oh shit!
Get that peek out of there first.
Yeah, hit that red guy.
Pop, 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 pop.
Nope, not that guy. Just kidding. Just kidding. Facebook. No. Brandon's fucking shit up.
You want to delete those things too, or it's going to.
This is what makes for awesome video, right, Matt? Where the fuck am I removing this from? Remove items.
There you go.
Boom. Shakalaka.
All right, good to go. And
As soon. Nope.
well, we're gonna do the whole intro thing first, so
Oh yeah, this is true.
yeah.
So, All right, cool. Let's do it. 3, 2,
1.
All right, and we are back.
That's right. Episode 24.
Episode 24. It is Sunday. What is the date today? 10? 11? 12?
13?
13? There we go.
Almost right.
Right.
Get with it.
Well, you know the time frame we're looking at. So anyway, we're here again doing the weekly shindig, and we actually added a new member here for this week.
Yeah.
I actually talked about Frank a little bit in last week's episode. He's our third man here, and we figured this week would be as good a time as any to get Frank on the record and scrutinize him for all his thoughts.
I prefer the term co-conspirator.
Right. So Frank Everhart is going to be joining us on this episode. We're going to go ahead. Well, I guess if you want, you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Frank.
My name is Frank. This really is.
That's it.
I'm not really comfortable putting out more information.
Don't dox me, bro.
Right. So there's that. And now that we have his bio, we'll go ahead and jump into North Korea to start off this week. Obviously, it wasn't news to anybody what the opening sound bites were going to be to this episode. There are some other big stories this week in the news.
There was a lot of big stories this week.
Yeah, later on in the show we'll go into the violence in
Charlottesville,
Virginia, over the white supremacist rally and whatnot, and that story. We'll break that down. We'll also go into later on into the Paul Manafort raid, and what else do we have in there? We'll go into some crime statistics that we've been talking about actually for quite a few
the
weeks.
3-year anniversary of Michael Brown and all of that.
Mm-hmm. And then we should probably finish up with a little bit of some Google scandal. So that's kind of the plan for the show. But first, like I said, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a second with North Korea.
Right. Thought we'd probably start off with a little bit of a timeline of
what's going on and how we got to what feels like the brink of nuclear war. I don't know if that's actually accurate yet.
If it's going to start, this might be how it was going to start.
But we'll go ahead and break this down a little bit. I got an article here from CBS News, and it basically breaks down the timeline of North Korea's nuclear program. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one started. I'll then pass it off to you, and we're gonna kind of try to break down the timeline, and then we will discuss. So, CBS says recent U.S. tensions with North Korea are leaving Americans uneasy as President Trump threatens to meet plans to meet North Koreans' aggression with fire and fury. And North Korea lays out a plan to launch missiles near Guam. Mr. Trump has found that negotiating with North Korea and its unpredictable leader, Kim Jong-un, isn't as easy as he perhaps thought. Trump has been pressuring China, which has economic leverage over North Korea and borders that country, but that has left him disappointed.
Shit.
Yeah.
Even Trump can't spin that into a positive.
Right. As the U.S. and North Korea exchange threats, Trump likely has tough choices in his near future. But how do you handle the North Korean crisis? Let's see. The U.S. has a complicated, decades-long history of attempting to halt North Korean nuclear aggression dating back to the 80s. Time and again, the U.S. has aided other countries, and the United Nations has attempted to make deals with North Korea to suspend or dismantle its nuclear weapons program. Time and again, North Korea has found a way to skirt or violate any agreement, slowly continuing the development of its program. So now we'll go ahead and we'll jump into a brief timeline of kind of the way that this has gone. And we've done a segment, I don't know how many months ago it was, probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, on North Korea, period. We did a bit on North Korea and the history and what their end goal is. So we're going to try to skip over, we'll refer you back to that episode for the kind of history lesson of the Hermit Kingdom. But we'll just quickly go through the important points on the nuclear program timeline. So I'll hand that off to you.
So obviously this has been going on for a long time. Really, I've decided just to kind of look from 2003 and kind of forward, since that kind of brings it into where it's at now with the current leaders of the regime. So in 2003, in January, North Korea officially withdraws from the NTP, the six-party talks that expanded beyond the U.S. and North Korea to include China, South Korea, Japan, and Russia. So as a result of the six-party talks, North Korea then agrees in a joint statement to abandon its nuclear program in exchange for aid, a guarantee of U.S. security and talks for normalizing relationships with the U.S. But the U.S. later freezes North Korea assets in a bank at Macau on suspicion of illicit activities, which clearly was the case. I mean, obviously they were continuing to do this without the authorization. So then it breaks down the whole talks. We go to 2006, where North Korea tests long-range missiles, prompting the United Nations Security Council to issue a resolution to suspend North Korea's nuclear program. That doesn't work either, as the North Koreans say it's testing its first successful nuclear weapon. This is way back 11 years ago. Then, 2007, North Korea again...
This was under Kim Jong-un's father.
Right.
Kim Jong-il?
Yes. North Korea again agrees to dismantle its nuclear weapon facilities at six-party talks in September, but misses the deadline to destroy all of the nuclear weapon facilities by the end of the year. 2008, the six-party talks break down after North Korea refuses to allow international inspectors into its facilities. This sounds a little bit familiar if we're thinking about the Iranian deal, or the Iran deal for the nuclears, where they said you're not allowed to come in, but trust us, we're doing it. So, then, 2009, the U.S. Security Council imposes new sanctions after North Korea announces it conducted a second successful nuclear test. Maybe don't tell us about it, bros.
Right. Refuse to let us into your facilities.
Right, but totally, yeah. 2011, U.S. officials meet with North Korea delegation in Switzerland in efforts to pick up the talks from 2008. 2012 now, the State Department says North Korea has agreed to halt long-range missile launches and activity in the country's major nuclear facility in exchange for food aid. This is a recurring theme here, where the North Koreans have a hard time feeding their people.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with the sanctions and whatnot. So they'll say, hey, we're not doing that anymore, give us some food. We do, and they totally...
And nothing changes.
Yeah, nothing changes at all. 2013, the UN imposes additional sanctions from North Korea after North Korea conducts a third nuclear test. The first test under the new leader, Kim Jong-un, who is currently the leader at this time. Now we pop all the way to 2016. In March, then President Barack Obama issues an executive order imposing further economic sanctions on North Korea in response to missile launches and a nuclear test earlier in July. And so that brings us to where we're at now, where, once again, they are conducting more tests. Obviously, they've given up on the whole...
Are you sure? Because I think some of those are earthquakes.
It's just earthquakes, no big deal. But yeah, and so now
Korea has an earthquake in the middle of the sea. Yeah, that's weird. They're always right in the middle of the sea,
right
in between Korea and Japan.
So the idea has been that from the United States that we can stop this through sanctions, that we can work with them. They're gonna
and it's been the idea of the entire world that we could stop this
the
through
UN
sanctions.
and the United States have really been the ones that are
pushing
kind of,
it.
Yeah, well,
but they've been pushing it for 30 years too. Like
Yeah.
this is not a 85 was when they figured out about it and said you can't do that, and we've spent 30 years being like, okay, we won't do it.
Well, this
secretly
time
doing
it'll
it.
be different,
Right.
And yeah. So they've basically been working up towards this point, but now they've hit the point. The whole goal for North Korea was we're going to have intercontinental ballistic missiles, and we're going to be able to strike anyone at any time that we want. Now we've been trying to stop them. That hasn't worked. So now, and even whenever Barack Obama left office and Trump came into office, he said, as he was leaving, they said, what's the biggest thing that Trump's going to have to deal with? And he said, North Korea. It's going to have to be solved on his watch. There's no other way to look at it. So now we're to where we're at now. Now is, antagonizing them the correct choice?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if meeting crazy with further crazy is going to work.
Right.
Right.
I think so I look at this a couple of ways, especially based on the rhetoric over the last week and a half.
Yeah.
So when Trump initially came out and said that, if North Korea, first of all, the statement itself, as we just played, is that if they threaten, they will be met with fire and fury.
They've been threatening for a long time.
Yeah, but threat like to say that if they threaten, that's the red line. That's a dumb red line.
Yeah, they passed it.
They passed it how many years ago?
They passed it 4 hours after he said it.
Right, it was like, hey, we're going to attack Guam.
So I think that the wording could have been chosen better. Yeah. So I have mixed feelings though, because when we did this bit the last time, we talked about, and you and I came to an agreement at the end of that segment, if I remember correctly, that sanctions are probably what's going to happen, but is that really going to solve? No. We've seen what sanctions do, and we're still having the same problem. So here's my take on Trump's rhetoric initially. I have a different take as the week goes on. Yeah. But initially, when he came out and said fire and fury and whatever, you have to look at it both ways, right? We've tried the other approach, we've tried the diplomatic approach, and the diplomatic approach keeps getting us back into the same boat every single time.
Right. They say they're doing it and they're not.
So I think that Rex Tillerson had a point when he said, we're going to talk on this guy's terms. If these are the types of statements that you make, so maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but it's an approach that we haven't tried before. So for that, I wasn't as upset about Donald Trump's initial comment on it. But as the days went on, and it basically became a dare to shoot missiles at Guam, I don't think that's where I would have stopped. I would have stopped with the fire and fury comment and been like, okay, I said my piece. Now, I don't have to show the world how big my hands are because I have 7,000 nuclear warheads. I don't have to remind people that I've got a big stick. Yeah.
Well, in the United States, even during Barack Obama, routinely did this, where they would fly jets by if they're getting a little too close up to it, to kind of do a show of force and say, we can take you out if we need to. What I don't understand with Donald Trump is he was a big person against, don't let them know what we're doing. And so when he comes out and says, well, we're getting everything set up, we're doing all that, why are you saying that?
Which is exactly where I come from. Because I actually agree with him that we should be, besides sanctions, we should be harsher on North Korea. Yeah. I just don't think the way to go about saying that is, off-the-cuff remarks that you have not talked to your generals about.
Right.
And it's kind of a trend, and I don't really like it. I don't like that he keeps kind of...
And it's one thing to do it to politicians. To do it to generals and people who lead our military, we have to keep them in the loop to some degree.
Well, and they should really be making the calls.
Yeah, or at least having input into what's going to be policy.
Well, and the weird thing about that whole thing, too, is that, you have... So you have this kind of good cop, bad cop thing going on, right, between Donald Trump and the generals and whatever. Typically, when you see a good cop, bad cop scenario on a geopolitical level, the president isn't the one saying it.
He's the good cop.
We can say whatever we want about how crazy Kim Jong-un is. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, though, if you look at what he's strategically doing, A, it makes sense for North Korea.
Right.
B, it, to me, Here's the difference between Donald Trump coming out and saying fire and fury and, I didn't have a problem with that one. It was more as the week went on where he got, I figured after the fire and fury, the goal would be to de-escalate the conversation now. And it seemed like the goal became to escalate it very quickly, and I feel like that makes me very uncomfortable.
I come in a position where I don't know if de-escalation is the right choice because I don't trust them. I mean, we've obviously gone through the details. They're not going to stop.
Is it even possible at this point, though? Because, they're not going to stop. So we either have to accept that or we have to do something intangible to stop them.
And the reason they're doing it is because they want to be taken seriously.
But, getting a new... they've pretty much been taken seriously now. They're at the table.
That's where
the big grown-ups table.
That's where Korea's mind is at, is that the world's not going to take us seriously unless we can threaten them. And they're kind of right.
Right.
No,
they are.
And now we have to deal with, do we want to do that? Do we want to go ahead and say, okay, North Korea, we will take you seriously. You get to come to the table. You can be part of the UN. You can be part of all these different programs. And you don't have to dismantle your nuclear weapons. I don't want to do at all.
I'm also of the opinion, do we have the right to tell other countries they can't have what we have?
Yeah.
Which is a little hypocritical.
And I think, though...
They are crazy, but, their leader is crazy.
Hey, everyone's one election away from being crazy. And anyone can get voted in.
But I think that's kind of my point, though, if I'm going back to the good cop, bad cop scenario. We, in America, think of Kim Jong-un and the regime as crazy. But there's a difference between the president coming out and saying fire and fury and Kim Jong-un sending one of his generals out to say, we're going to make plans.
Yeah.
We're not that we're going to bomb the sea by Guam. We're going to make plans that have to get approved that's wiggle room to have a diplomatic solution. That's why it was worded that way, which makes me very nervous when then Donald Trump's response to that is, try it. No, dude. Like, you're like,
well, to quote a great man, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again.
I think it's in Texas. I mean, California. I think it's in Texas. Something.
I don't trust them. So to me, a diplomatic solution really, in my opinion, is off the table because they're not going to follow through with it. They want their nuclear weapons. They're going to keep them.
I think, though,
the only way that you can do it is if you got to get China to come in and do something with it. They signed these sanctions. There was new sanctions that came out, but they're really not that harsh. Basically, what they do is it hampers North Korea's exports. It doesn't hamper their imports at all. So they can't export coal. They can't export iron ore or iron, a few things like that, and it will hurt their economy, no doubt. However, they still have their weapons trade.
It's not going to hurt their economy enough to make a difference in what we're talking. The standoff that's going on.
And it's not going to hurt their military at all.
Which is China really stands to benefit from both sides, so they're kind of want to take that middle ground of like we don't want to tilt the scale.
China likes having this buffer between America and themselves. So we have got all these military bases all throughout that South Asian Sea, and they're worried about is if we actually get into a confrontation with North Korea. First off, you're going to have a mass exodus of North Koreans coming over the border into China to escape. So now they're going to have a refugee crisis that they don't want. They can't deal with. On top of that, if we come in and then the South Koreans basically take over all of North Korea, well, we are a big partner with South Korea. So now you've got American troops on the border of the Chinese country, and they don't want that either. So they like having that North Korean buffer.
Here's a question I want to pose, though, because I heard... I think it was two generals. I've heard military people, if you haven't noticed, have been on TV talking all week.
Well, that's what happens.
And I think that, so I've heard multiple generals pose the question, what if North Korea has nukes? Is there... No, that's fine. What if we just are okay with that? What does that do to North Korea? Is there a way that you can say... that you can settle with North Korea having nukes as long as the rhetoric goes away? We're not going to blow the United States off the map anymore. Yeah. You can have nukes. Now you've made them a player at the table because they made themselves a player at the table by getting nukes.
Again,
is that horrible for everyone?
And I'll tell you why, because they've said it before. Like, basically what you're saying, it'd be different if, yes, other countries have nukes. Other countries don't say they're going to nuke us for the past 30 years.
Except for Russia did. And they pointed missiles at us from a country right next to us, and we avoided nuclear war.
And
there is a way to avoid nuclear war here. There is a way to avoid confrontation, and it might simply be okay with North Korea having nuclear weapons.
But again, you're trusting them.
But you would have to have some guarantee that they're not.
We have no guarantee.
I don't believe that's the only issue they're stuck on. That the U.S. won't let us have nukes. That's why we hate them. I think there's a lot of issues why we hate them stemming back from the war.
Fucking their economy for the past.
You probably didn't appreciate the MASH TV show.
Well, we're staged in South Korea, and they don't want they don't believe that South Korea should exist. It should be Korea.
Right, period. That was what the Korean War was
Korea
for.
just. Shout out to Dan. So...
To me, that's not an option, in my opinion. I don't think that... Because, again, we just went over a timeline just from the past 11 years alone where we basically have been like, okay, we're going to play ball with you. And at least 5 or 6 times they've been like, okay, sure, and then completely went the other way.
I know.
We can't trust them.
And I think that's kind of... That's what we talked about when we covered it before. Is that this is this endless game of we're gonna make. But here's
what happens when they get that power?
Here's something though that I think needs to be really carefully looked at. Right, Donald Trump got elected, and I'm not saying that I don't. This has been a long time coming. So you're we're not gonna put the blame on those shoulders. But here's what I will say: Donald Trump got elected on this idea that he was a great negotiator, right? We have bad deals. We have bad deals in Paris. We have bad deals in Iran. We have bad deals. I'm going to make the greatest deals. They're going to be so great.
Yep.
Going to the nuclear option first might not be the best negotiating tactic.
I'll tell you what, because you're saying he's supposed to be the great negotiator making deals. He also got elected by not making bad deals and what he called stupid deals. And going to North Korea and being like, all right, we trust you this time, you can have your nukes, to me is a stupid deal.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's a smarter deal to like ante up so quickly and be like nuclear war is on the table.
In my opinion, if we're going to get into it, we should get into it sooner rather than later, because if it's going to happen regardless...
But your argument about just not to deflect, but like the argument, because I think it's contextually relevant, to why we why we don't go to war with Russia, because we're so weak and we don't have the So
Russia's not North Korea.
Okay,
they're different.
Yeah, I get that, but do we want to? War is going to cost money, right? All of your economic progress that Donald Trump is going to tout for until it goes away will go away the second that we go to war.
Well, we don't know that for sure. It's probably...
Ask George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, certain wars do make money, though. I mean, they make money for certain people, but they are money makers.
And George Bush's principal mistake was that you don't cut taxes when you go to war. You raise taxes because you have to fund the war.
Right.
He cut taxes while waging the longest war in American history.
But then I feel like Trump would have to say, if he wants to do all this tax reform and cut taxes, and then we suddenly have to go to war with North Korea, we're in the same boat. And then he loses that whole...
And the jobs haven't come back yet. I mean, we were planning on doing a whole thing on the economy. We'll probably do it next week or some other week. It does look like jobs are coming back, but they're not back yet. Yeah, and we do need to have...
We've had an 8-year uptake in jobs. We've been slowly gaining back some recession.
And that whole thing, we're going to cover that too, because Obama was really good at creating jobs, but he was really good at creating the jobs that liberals said weren't livable wages, and that didn't actually...
Well, I don't know, because I read a report that said that it's been estimated, and I don't know how reliable this is, that like 47% of them were higher paying jobs. And when you guys get into that, I'll be interested to...
Yeah, we'll have to look at the exact numbers, because I don't have it in front of me. So
I'm more curious if Americans would even buy because we've been taught for so many years that the Kim family is insane. Yeah, they're unreliable as leaders. That if America would even go for some kind of like deal where you can keep your nukes and we'll just back off.
I don't think that
I think that we're going to have
I think even certain liberals would be against that idea.
I honestly think that's how this plays out.
I think that's dangerous, and
I think we need an Obama nuclear disarmament, and I think that's the only thing that's going to be going forward is everyone's going to have to agree, like, you can be a player at the table in North Korea, but we're all going to reduce our nukes
but no one's
to a reasonable... No, they're not.
I like the rosy answers too, but we're not going to do that.
I do think
take it all away.
I do think, and I may be totally wrong,
because nuclear weapons are power, especially in this climate.
I don't see us going to war with Korea. I think that
we would have to have them start it first, and that's kind of why you hear Donald Trump saying. He doesn't sound that concerned with them attacking Guam, because if they attack Guam, there it is. You must defend yourself. Go get them.
Right.
And if you're under the impression that this is going to have to happen anyway, it's kind of like one of those things where back in World War II days, we're like, yeah, we're definitely not helping Britain. We're definitely not helping them, but we totally were. And then we get a Pearl Harbor, and then, all right, well, now we can go in and do it. It's one of those things. We've been setting this up for a while.
What's crazy is, like, just thinking about how this week has gone, who knew that, like, nuclear war was going to be what got us to stop talking about Russia? Good play, Donald.
Right. See? How you do it.
So, yeah, you just go to nuclear war.
Trump apparently isn't that worried about Guam. There's a quote he had where he called the leader of Guam and said, all over the world, they're talking about Guam and they're talking about you. And I think tourism, I could say this, your tourism, you're going to go up like tenfold without any expenditure of money.
Because if there's nothing that attracts me to a tourist location, it's the threat of nuclear war.
I mean, have you been to Chernobyl, man?
It's amazing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You get to get nuked by Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Almost become the Hulk.
Send a postcard.
So, I don't know. I honestly think
so. They're going to do that. And they said within like the week they're going to shoot a missile.
I bet it doesn't happen. That's my prediction. Now that's supposed to happen on Tuesday.
Now,
so we're going to find out by the time that this episode drops and you're listening to it whether I was right or wrong.
Now, I've got a graphic that we're going to drop in the links and everything so people can check them out. It's really good. But basically it shows the missile defense system, the THAAD defense system inside of South Korea, only can reach so far. So there's an idea now that with, especially with the Scud missiles and these other missiles that they've got that aren't the best range, but they're extremely mobile. And so they can go all up and down the coast of North Korea and attack these other places. But with this intercontinental ballistic missile that they're going to be firing, it would be theoretically outside of the THAAD's defense range. And what they want to do is they want to shoot it over Japan, which is why Japan is saying, U.S., take care of it. Like, whatever you got to do it, because they're in a bad position.
There is an argument that I've seen a lot of military people making this week that because these missiles have to leave the atmosphere and then re-enter the atmosphere, that there is a high likelihood that won't happen. They won't re-enter the atmosphere.
Yeah, take a look at that graphic again.
I looked at the graphic.
They're all successful. Every testing was successful.
No, it wasn't. And
the only one that wasn't was that Scud missile. That was the only one.
No, that graph shows 23 tests, and it shows that 10 of them were successful.
Yeah, but you're looking at back from 5 years ago when they didn't have the capabilities. Every test, it actually puts a thing there that shows ever since what's his name, Trump became president, every test has been successful since then.
It also
and that's also when they've been testing the intercontinental ballistic missiles. God, if I can say it right.
Here's the thing that you and I debated. Let me pull this up real quick.
And this shocked everybody.
You and I debated over like whether or not, because I had said to you earlier this week when we were talking on the phone that the fuel supply might be something to worry about. So in this
uses a different type of fuel.
Here's what it says, and here's where I have an issue. I'm gonna play you on semantics here. It says upgraded fuel. The engine shown above use liquid fuel system in which the stored fuel and oxidizer are pumped into a combustion chamber. It says analysts believe some new developmental models use a high-performance liquid fuel, which is more efficient than crude kerosene and nitric acid, which could not give them the range that they would if they were using kerosene or crude oil. They could not get the range. The problem that I have with you taking that as fact is that everything else in the same article says experts agree, and this says analysts believe. Mm-hmm. Well, I can find analysts that believe climate change isn't real too.
Well, obviously, but like I said, we're seeing them test these missiles.
I can find analysts that believe that there's nothing with Russia.
To sit there and say that, well, it probably isn't true whenever they're actually testing them and they're being successful. And also keep in mind that China made sure that whenever these new sanctions were imposed, yes, they signed off on them. Yes, Russia signed off on them. It doesn't at all affect imports into North Korea. And that's one thing that China's really big into importing into that country is fuel. On top of that, I lost where I was going. But
that's what happens with live radio. It's not live. We're listening to it on the radio.
I remember that, but China was very adamant about not hindering their fuel intake. So if your argument is that, hey, they don't have the fuel to do it, I would say we don't have the proof. I can't show you the pictures of all the fuel that they have. Right. Everything is pointing that they have more than enough capabilities.
Well, and they showed the graphic that you had just pulled up. They had showed on that the range. The range, 1,000 miles, right, or 1,000 meters. So you're still looking though. You got to get 10,000 meters to hit the U.S. mainland, right? I'm not saying that we don't have something to worry about here. We do.
Yeah.
I think that the way this plays out is we end up settling on North Korea to avoid war because we don't want a war.
Yeah. Well, then you got.
I really don't think they want a war either. I think they want to be taken seriously. I don't think their end goal. I think nuclear war is bad for them as it's bad for everybody.
I don't know, and this is something that I've been talking to Brandon about quite a bit when it comes to what I think that if there was to be a war. We said that the players would probably be Russia, North Korea, China, and Syria. This is what you got to think in mind. This is a hypothetical that I'm going into, and I know that I hate hypotheticals and all these. I know, but I'm going to do it anyway.
He just uses them all the time.
No.
On every episode. 4 times.
But we do know that China has been investing heavily in EMP technology. So the idea behind this is, well, North Korea can't hit us because we have these satellite systems that would be able to take it down. Not if we get blasted with EMPs and then they shoot it. It's a coordinated attack, and they have the capabilities to hit the mainland.
It's a huge hypothetical, though, and you're putting the players on that team.
China doesn't seem willing to pick our side.
But they don't seem willing to pick their side either. Though. Right. They want to straddle that middle ground.
That's why I get that wild card factor. We don't know what.
Yeah, and I almost think China is the least likely to want to go to war because they're poised to be the next world power, and I don't really think they want something.
Well, if you can take out America, you don't think they want to do it too?
Yeah, but it's. I mean, people more or less agree it's going to happen anyway. You give it 30, 40 years, China's going to be a powerhouse.
They own the whole solar industry.
Yeah, and they're just investing so much into that.
I also think too that you should keep in mind that Russia and China have never, when you put your players on your teams, right? You put Korea, Russia, and China on the same side. and you've explained why, and I understand that. There is something to be said, though, about the fact that China and Russia never signed on to sanctions against North Korea, and they did.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's
not cut and dry that they've picked the side that you've hypothetically put them on.
Well, again, you want to, and this is, again, sticking with my hypothetical here, when it comes to war, you want to disarm the other side. You want them to think that that's not what you're doing. And if you look at the sanctions that they signed off on, again, it doesn't hurt North Korea's military. It just doesn't. It hurts their. It's
more
economy.
Symbolic than it is.
Exactly. And so you say, oh, well, they're on our side. See, look at that. But they went to pains to make sure they were still going to get the fuel that they would need if they were going to do an attack, and it doesn't hurt their military.
Yeah, so, I just think that because they're already poised to be a superpower, that a war is very unpredictable, and that could backfire on them.
Yeah. But again, if it thinks that everyone wants to be on the winning side.
Oh yeah.
And if it looks like this
war
is
unavoidable,
unavoidable,
and we do look weak now throughout the world, and I don't think Trump's helping with that necessarily.
I don't think.
I think that he is. I think that he's.
I think I don't know, news stories of Charlottesville, stuff like that. It seems like we're in a very.
Well, we're hyper-focused on these social issues and things that are going on in America, which are important. I think that you kind of...
I don't think this war is unavoidable, though.
No war is unavoidable.
Because you said...
I'm saying that every day it looks like it's more and more poised.
Maybe so. Right now, with this rhetoric.
Yeah, I think people have probably been saying that since the 80s, though, that every time this happened and we didn't take a firm stand.
So... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking about this as the weeks go on. I don't think it's going to be... I don't think it's going to be...
I think we're going to be here next week to talk about it.
I do.
Well, we just got to see... Right now, China holds the cards. Everything has to... If China wants to shut down the situation, they can. They're not. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. They like having that buffer. They don't want the United States meddling in their business. They don't want things. Now, Donald Trump is talking about putting sanctions on the banks, the Chinese banks that are basically dealing with them, because they do support 90% of their economy. And if you're going to do that, you might need to slap China on the wrist and see what do they do. Now, that could escalate things, and we don't know which way they're going to go. That's what I don't like. I don't like China being this wild card where we say, well, they're on our side. See, we don't know that. We don't actually know what if it all came down to it. We don't know which side they're going to be on.
I would make the same part about Russia, though. It's like they're not our friends.
Reason. Well, especially now because everyone in Congress keeps trying to shit all over Russia and everything. Like, they have no reason to join our side.
I don't think they've ever really had a reason to. I mean, not in this century.
Yeah, Congress is the bad guy here, right? Like, Congress is shitting all over the country that tried to infiltrate the election.
Russia, too.
Shame on Congress.
Yeah. But Russia, the whole thing that I was talking about with Russia is they've always been an enemy in my mind. But what I was excited about when Trump became president was I thought maybe there's a chance that we can work with them in actually, because China's going to...
Oh, yeah, in the same way, I thought Obama had a good shot at that, about, it would be wonderful if we got along with the other superpowers in the world.
Right.
It would add a lot more unity.
Beneficial. The problem with Obama and the things that they were doing is they basically just said, well, we have to try the diplomatic solution, but there was no test to it, there was no checks and balances, it was just, we'll take you at your word, and every time they would just lie.
Yeah, you can't take Putin at his word.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I don't know. We're gonna be talking about this.
We'll see what happens.
The classic line, right?
Yep. We'll see what happens.
I think we
right now China's got the power, so it's in China's field
to that point, like to kind of sum up on the whole thing, and I think that's probably a good place to end it. Was with China. I think that a lot of the rhetoric that we've seen over the last week between Donald Trump and North Korea is there. So there's, we've talked about over and over again how in 1 second Donald Trump's an idiot, and in 1 second he's a mastermind.
40 chess.
Well, so my thought here is it would make sense strategically if Donald Trump was making comments like this to get China to act. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
I just don't know, coming out on Twitter and publicly saying China needs to handle this, if that's like you're almost giving up any power you have to negotiate somewhat.
We don't have much. I mean,
we don't, but it just seems like coming out and like trying to shame them through social media isn't gonna help.
I mean, we can do.
China doesn't give a shit about Twitter.
We tried it.
I mean, and that's
China cares about China and Russia are very similar, where they're going to do what's best for them. So China's, they don't give a shit that they pollute so much.
Almost, I think, was what we needed. But like, they're just focused on their economy, which I kind of wish we would focus on too, to a certain extent.
Well, we're kind of starting to get to it. That was the problem I had with Obama. Is he was just like, well, fuck America's economy. Let's just help everyone else.
I mean, he did help America's economy, not as much as other presidents have in the past, but he did. There was an uptick after taking over during a recession is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, there's some things, and like I said, I mean, the math is in when it comes to austerity spending versus stimulus spending. The countries that did the stimulus spending recovered much quicker than the austerity countries, so that was the right thing to do. Now, wasting $800 billion on Solyndra and other companies when you don't own that market, China does, that was poor market research, and that wasted a lot of money that could have gone to help the rest of the economy.
Well, let's find out when we tune in next week how much money this war is going to cost us. So I think that's a good place to end it for this one, though.
Yeah.
And so we'll be back in a minute. Facebook, awkward life stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to talk when we're doing
Right.
All right.
So, all right, Facebook.
We have a bunch more articles that I was going to go into, but just time-wise and whatnot, so we'll link into them. I got a really good article about why China doesn't want to do anything with North Korea. That's really good. Politico, I think.
Yeah, there's several articles that will be in the comment section on the in the sources in the comments of our episode that'll be up on iTunes and Google Play and all that stuff. I actually already have it all sourced out. There's some really, really good articles on all of the topics that we're going to discuss today. So we will take a short break real quick, probably 5 to 10 minutes, and we will be right back with Charlottesville. I'm going, and I promise before we come back, I'll figure out the name of the fucking town. So, all right.